Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in for the next update for my current project, currently named Project Silent. In this video I've made several improvements and additions to the enemies in the game as well as the weapons, so let's get straight into it. So first and foremost, I've been working on writing the behaviour for enemies in the game, starting with a jumping head, an enemy which is planned for the final game. The enemies in Project Silent have been programmed with what is called a state machine. This is quite common in game development. Essentially, enemies will have different states that will dictate a few different things, such as its movement, its current action, and so on and so on. I've set up several different buttons to showcase each aspect of the head enemy's state machine. Firstly, as the text suggests, this enemy has the ability to follow a strict path and go between these points. In this case, it's the red spheres you see in the scene. In practice, this can be used for enemy patrol routes. Next up, this section will showcase the wander ability, essentially allowing for the enemy to move between random points within a radius relative to either a set position or a current position when the state starts. In practice, this will allow for enemies to essentially wander around an area, whether it's a set area or an area where they find themselves in when they can't see the player. For this section, this one just shows the enemy in its idle state, so just still. Lastly, this is the enemy in its full state, starting in its chase state. So the enemy will chase the player, and once it is close enough, will attempt to attack the player, as you can see in the video. This will be a small section, but I also wanted to show how enemies have a realistic field of vision, which can be blocked by static objects. As you can see, it has a field of vision area here which I can adjust based on its angle, so I can have the enemies have a more narrow field of vision if I wanted, or a more wider one. And as you can see here, this wall I'm standing next to is blocking the vision of the enemy so they can't see me. But if they do, they'll transition into the chase state and attack me. In this section, I wanted to talk about a few additions to how the weapons work in Project Silent. Firstly, I've added a new weapon, one that I have named the Atom 11. As you can see, it has its own animations and unique sway settings to differentiate it from other weapons like the revolver from previous videos. One of the biggest additions to the weapon is bullet shells will now spit out the gun upon firing. These shells are pulled, of course, and will rod your body onto the floor for a short time before automatically being cleaned up for performance reasons. Another change is the flash will now not follow the gun. This is fixing a small mistake from a previous video, but it is a noticeable difference in the game, so although this is purely on the tech side of things, I wanted to mention how I've developed a pretty neat scene zone system. So I split up areas by scene zones, which allow for ungrabbed objects in those zones to be deactivated upon leaving the zone. This helps performance, and the zones are also fitted with events and stuff that you would typically see on a trigger to allow for events to occur upon entering a particular area. The zones also mean I don't have to put the actual rigid body objects in the scene. Instead I have gizmos for those objects and they're spawned in on awake. It just makes it more convenient for me. Next thing I want to talk about is a crouching system that I've developed. It's simple, but it works really well and essentially gives the player this whole new format of movement. The cool thing about the crouching is, as you can see, when I go under this platform, if I let go of the crouch whilst I'm under the platform, I will stay crouched until I've moved clear of the platform, and then the player will automatically uncrouch if I'm not holding the crouching button anymore. Thank you everybody for watching. Project Silent has been a passion project for me for a while now, so it's nice to be more open about it and see it essentially grow in real time. I'm really excited for what this game has to offer, and I appreciate every one of you who has stuck around to watch. I genuinely really appreciate it, as well as the folks who've helped me during development so far, such as Chris and Jimmy over at Blimmy Games, link will be in description, and the folks over at the Bone Lad server. So yeah, thank you all for watching. See ya.